Good morning, New Skin Singapore and Malaysia leaders. How are you doing this morning? I hope all of us are doing very great and we have something very excited coming on. So welcome to New Skin Digital Product Opportunity Meeting, Uncover the Science Behind Weight Management Wins. I'm Fion, Product Marketing Manager of Pharmanex at New Skin Southeast Asia, and I'm your host for today. So before we begin, if you have questions during the session, please type in the Q&A function of this webinar. Remember to include your name, country of residence, and email address so that we can contact you after the webinar, right? So in theory, we all know that overweight often results from an imbalance of energy intake and energy expenditure. And to lose weight, is it just as simple as cutting down the calories intake and move more to burn the energy? So perhaps in your mind, you may say yes, but in fact, the reality is weight management still remains a top concern globally, and we see many people are still trying very, very hard to find success in their weight management journey. And in today's session, you will be equipped with the knowledge of weight management science to understand how our body and mind can actually work together from the aspect of 5 key areas of metabolism, lean muscle maintenance, meal replacement, positive mood, and appetite control that can actually provide you with a holistic solution to weight management journey. And today we are very honored to invite our Director of New Skin Global Research and Development, Dr. Shelley Hester, to share with you. So Dr. Shelley joined New Skin as a scientist in 2013, and over the last 11 years, she has been involved in new product development, and she has participated in research for Pharmanex and Edgelog product development, such as Wispan, the Reset, Collagen Plus, and of course, our newly launched Edgelog TRMe. So without further ado, let's give our warm Southeast Asia welcome to Dr. Shelley Hester, and I shall hand over the time to Dr. Shelley. Hello, Dr. Shelley.
Hello, it's such a pleasure to be here.
Welcome. Thank you for helping to share on the science of weight management.
I'm excited to talk about the science of weight management. Hey, so I'm so excited to be here today and talk to you guys about weight management. And we understand at New Skin that it's complex. And we're going to talk about different strategies that we have that we can target weight management to help it be an easier process. So 5 key areas of weight management that we will cover today. The first one is protein and meal replacements. So we'll talk about the importance of protein and meal replacements. The second area is just talking about making sure you have that strong support at the beginning of your weight wellness journey. When you're making all these lifestyle changes, it can be a very stressful time. So it's really important to have that extra support. The third area we'll talk about is muscle and the importance that muscle plays on your resting metabolic rate. The fourth area will be just talking about that healthy response to food and appetite control and satiety and how all of those are connected. And then the fifth or final area we'll talk about is just stress and how stress can cause snacking and mood changes as well. So these are the 5 key areas that we will talk about in the beginning of our presentation. So the first area, like I said, we'd start is talking about protein and the importance of protein on maintaining muscle. So why do you want to maintain muscle during weight loss? Well, it's the most metabolically active tissue in your body. And so it's very important to maintain that muscle so you can have a higher metabolism during weight loss and after for maintenance. And so how you do this is you optimize your protein intake and you do want to do some exercise. So what this graph is showing on the right, the screen, is if you consume a low protein diet, so this is around 0.8 grams per kilogram, which would be about 55 grams of protein per day, you can see that if you look at, okay, how did people lose weight? Was it muscle or was it fat? They're losing about 40% of that weight loss in muscle. But if you look at the bar in the middle on the higher protein diet, you can see that percent of muscle drastically decreases. It goes down to about only 15%. And this is if somebody was consuming about 110 grams of protein daily, and that would be somebody for like that 70 kilograms of body weight. But if you go to that bar on the right, you can see if you're consuming the higher protein and you're doing exercise, you hardly have any loss of muscle mass. So it's so important in a weight loss program that you're consuming optimal protein and you're also exercising. And it doesn't have to be expensive exercise. For this particular study, they were walking for 30 minutes, 5 days a week, and they were doing resistance training 2 days a week. So protein is so important in the optimal amount because it does impact gene expression. So if you look at a gene of AKT, which is very important, it's a marker of MPS or muscle protein synthesis. If you're on a higher carbohydrate diet, that actually decreases the amount of this particular protein. It decreases the amount of the muscle protein you're building. But if you're on that higher protein diet, it actually increases your muscle protein synthesis, which is what we all want when we're losing weight and afterwards for maintenance. So proteins play a very important part in meal replacements. So typically meal replacements are delivering protein along with the other macronutrients and then the vitamins and minerals. And so meal replacements are very important because there's some really important key concerns during weight loss. One is it's really hard to cut calories. So cutting calories, like Fionn said, is not the only thing that you want to do during a weight management program, but it is an important part. And adherence is challenging. And it's also, if you are cutting back on the amount of calories you're eating every day, you might not be consuming those micronutrients, those vitamins and minerals that are so important just to make sure that your body is functioning optimally. So a solution is a meal replacement because meal replacements can make it much easier to follow a calorie restriction diet. And they're providing those essential vitamins and minerals along with those key macronutrients of the protein, especially. So there was a systematic review and a meta-analysis completed that looked at, okay, if we look at weight loss programs that use meal replacements, or we look at weight loss programs that didn't use meal replacements, if you look at a period of over a year, you're seeing a significantly greater amount of weight loss if they're using the meal replacement group compared to these other diets that don't. So it's just showing that it really does play an important part long-term for the success during a weight wellness program. So now we're going to move to that second area of weight wellness that we're going to talk about is why do we want to focus on early success? So I think it's pretty obvious that, you know, when we are starting a program, we're making these different lifestyle changes of our eating plan, we're being more active, you're taking different natural ingredients. And it's really important to set some of these short-term goals so you can have those wins early on in the process. So it's so important to set short-term goals and long-term goals along the way. And some ideas that you can have that are some of those initial changes that you can see during a weight wellness journey would be changes in your weight, the body shape. Are your clothes fitting better? How's your body composition? How's your mood? How's your appetite? Are you feeling hungry all the time or are you feeling less hungry? And then are you craving, you know, different types of food? And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But it's so important to set some of those realistic goals at the beginning of your journey so you can have some wins early on that will feed into those longer term goals. So some natural ingredients that are very important for impacting some of the early success are things like red orange extract, pomegranate, saffron, and prickly pear fruit. And these ingredients are important because they can protect against oxidative stress. They can help inhibit fat accumulation. They help with that mood and satiety and snacking. And they can also help you get quick wins on your body shaping. So if we look at red orange extract, this is a study in preclinical. So animals were fed either a high-fat diet for 12 weeks, or they were fed that same high-fat diet with a red orange extract. And then they looked at gene expression in the adipocytes or fat. And what they found is you can see that first bar was looking at lean controls. And so you can see the gene expression of those animals was very different than the high-fat control animals. But if you look at the bar on the right, you can see that the high-fat diet, along with the red orange extract, had gene expression that was very similar to those lean animals. So it's just showing that red orange extract significantly reduced the body weight gain and also reduce fat accumulation. And it can also impact a number of gene expression changes in the fat tissue. So the next ingredient that can help you get quick wins and early success is pomegranate. So this is a clinical study that looked at pomegranate juice, and this was fed to individuals for 1 month. And what people saw that had consumed the pomegranate versus a placebo. So what a placebo is it basically is the excipients of a certain delivery, but it doesn't have the actives. So subjects in the studies that have a placebo, they don't know if they're getting the placebo or the active. So the consumers that were getting the pomegranate, they actually saw a decrease in body fat over the course of just 1 month. So pomegranate is an interesting ingredient that's been shown to impact gene expression. And specifically, if you look at animals that were fed a high-fat diet, they see an increase and a decrease in certain genes, especially related to inflammation, an increase in inflammation, increase in liver gene expression related to fat metabolism. And then if you feed the high-fat diet along with a pomegranate, again, you're seeing a healthier response in the gene expression and that they have decreased inflammatory response, better liver health, and some of these may increase or decrease depending on the certain pathway you're looking at. So another ingredient that can help you get off to an early success is saffron extract. So these are results from a double-blind randomized placebo-controlled study where overweight women that had a tendency to snack, they were fed this extract or not for 8 weeks. And basically caloric intake was left unrestricted, saying eat as you normally would. And what they saw was a modest amount of weight loss, about 0.5 kilogram after just 2 weeks. But the saffron group also reported decreased hunger and a need to snack after 8 weeks. So these people felt less hungry and they felt a reduced need to snack between the meals. So just showing that it really helps in those first few weeks when you are reducing, you're changing the way you're eating, you're trying not to snack, especially reaching for those unhealthy snacks. And this particular ingredient can really help you get off to a good start. So another great ingredient is prickly pear. And what prickly pear has been consumed for hundreds of years in Europe and South America. And the benefits really are to get off to the early success of body silhouette, just helping your clothes feel better, making your body feel better, helping with weight management, being able to reduce oxidative stress, along with reducing excess water in the body. So now that we've talked about, getting off to a good early start, we want to talk a little more on that importance of muscle and resting metabolic rate. So we've already talked about protein, and protein definitely plays a very important role in impacting your muscle. But resting metabolic rate is the energy required by the body to actually perform these basic physiological functions at rest. So if you look at the chart on the right, you can see that your resting metabolic rate, if you look at the total energy expenditure throughout the day, just when you're sitting here, what are the calories that your body is burning just by your physiological responses going on? It makes up about 70% of that total energy expenditure. And then you have to account for the physical activity, which is around 20%. And then you have the thermic effect of food, just breaking down the foods that you're eating is around 10%. So the greatest contributor of your daily energy expenditure is your resting metabolic rate. And a lower resting metabolic rate, or RMR, increases the risk of weight gain, and higher muscle mass is directly related to your resting metabolic rate. So the more muscle you have, that's correlated to a higher resting metabolic rate. And that means if you have more muscle, you're burning more calories just sitting here listening to this talk. And so it's really important to have strategies during a weight wellness program that can really impact and help you maintain muscle so that you can maintain that higher level of RMR. And so diet and exercise can support lean muscle, consuming adequate protein, like we talked about earlier, in your diet and meal replacements, making sure that you're reducing your calorie intake, but not starvation. We don't want your calories to dip so low. We still want you to get those needed micronutrients and key macronutrients. And it's also important to do exercise, including both endurance and resistance training. And then there's certain dietary ingredients, natural ingredients that can really help provide that additional support and help support thermogenesis, the burning of calories in your body, which increases that resting metabolic rate. So to look at a few ingredients that have been shown to impact the resting metabolic rate and helping you basically maintain your muscle and reducing fat, many different herbs were examined and studied in adipocytes. So adipocytes are fat cells. And so the screening was done in a cell line, a cell culture, or in vitro. And basically the top 3 most effective herbs that were found were drumstick leaves, curry leaves, and turmeric. And so this was a really novel finding and showing that basically the fat accumulation was significantly decreased in these cells that were exposed to these 3 different ingredients. But what was even more interesting is that not only did you see a decrease with the individual herbs, but when you put those 3 herbs together, that's where the magic really happened. And specifically, it wasn't just the mixture of the 3, it was the ratio. And different ratios of these 3 ingredients were examined in these cell culture fat cells. And that is the composition that has then been studied in people and shown to have really, really great results on body weight reduction. So in this first study we're looking at women and men that were obese, and they were consuming around 2,000 calories a day, so a slightly reduced calorie diet. They did exercise every day, 5 days a week for 30 minutes. They walked. This was an 8-week-long study. And again, they consumed a placebo or the active, the herbal blend. And what you can see in the graph is the first 2 bars, the green and orange, is at 2 weeks, 4 weeks, and then 8 weeks. And so you can see just at 2 weeks, the herbal blend had significantly greater body weight reduction than the placebo. And then you see greater weight loss at 4 weeks and then at 8 weeks. So not only did they lose weight, but they also saw trends toward reduced weight in hip circumference. And they also looked at some blood measurements. And one of these is adiponectin. And so adiponectin is this important hormone in our body that's basically signaling our body to break down fat, and it's inversely correlated with body fat. So this study was really great. And then the researchers went on and did another clinical study where they were actually looking at an overweight population, this time so slightly less a BMI. And the diet in this study was around 1,800 calories a day. They also exercised for 5 days a week. They walked 30 minutes. And this study actually went to 16 weeks, so it was a little longer. And again, when you look at the chart, it's very similar to this other study we just looked at. You're seeing week 2 data, week 4, week 8, week 12, week 16, and you can see that there is significant body weight reduction at 2 weeks compared to placebo. And then that body weight just keeps progressing as the study goes on. And so in this study, we not only saw a significant increase in the body weight that's reduced throughout the study, but also that lean body mass was preserved and it reduced body fat. Additionally, the treatment was safe and well tolerated. So in this same study, if we look at the body composition, so the lean body mass was measured after the study. And you can see that the herbal blend actually increased the lean body mass. The placebo actually saw less. And lean body mass is what we're talking about when we're talking about muscle. And then if you look at the percent of body fat after 16 weeks, you can see that in the placebo group, the body fat actually increased, but in the active group, it significantly decreased. Again, that's what we want to see. We want to see that weight loss is from fat and not muscle, because muscle is directly related to that resting metabolic rate, which is related to how many calories are you burning every day. So this blend of these 3 herbs that were shown to have really great effects in the in vitro studies and the clinical studies, they've also been shown to impact gene expression. And so gene expression in animals that were fed this blend of ingredients, they've been shown to impact gene expression of things like lipogenesis, or basically impacting how fat tissue metabolizes fat and taking excess carbs and turning them into fatty acids. And that's also been shown to impact and improve thermogenesis, basically increasing the levels of those thermogenic markers in the fat tissue, which relates to those calories burned at rest and related to the production of heat. So that was talking about ingredients that can really impact muscle and resting metabolic rate. Now we want to talk about kind of that healthy physiological response to the foods we eat. And specifically, we want to start off with, what happens when we eat carbohydrates? So carbohydrates, I think everybody is aware, it's things in pastas and rice and a lot of the sweets we like to eat. And basically, when we consume these types of foods, they're broken down into simple sugars. And this happens by these proteins or enzymes in our intestines. And basically what happens is when the simple sugars are then broken down by these enzymes, they're then absorbed in our GI or gastrointestinal tract. And then they enter our bloodstream and they circulate throughout our body. And basically what happens when you have increased sugar levels, glucose levels in your body, that triggers other biomarkers in the body to be released. And basically what happens then is these simple sugars move into cells as an energy source, and they can be utilized if you're being active. If you're being very sedentary, that can be turned into fat. And then after this process, the biomarkers are basically returning to baseline. So what does that look like for somebody that has this balanced or healthy response to food? So basically what this chart is showing you is that if somebody consumes a meal that has carbohydrates, you're seeing that physiological response, increase and then come back down into a relatively healthy response. But if you have somebody that has an unhealthy response to the foods they're eating, especially carbohydrates, you're seeing when they eat something, they're seeing that peak in that physiological response. It goes much higher, and then it dips below baseline. And these feelings are linked to things like increased appetite and hunger and decreased energy and shakiness. Whereas if somebody's having that balanced response to food, they're going to feel more satisfied and full and just have better balanced energy levels throughout the day. So there's different ways that we can get to be like that first graph. We want to have that healthy response to the foods we eat. So just having a healthy diet is really important, making sure, if you are eating carbohydrates, which we all need in our diet, that you're getting those through fiber-rich foods because it can help decrease that peak in the glucose response. Getting plenty of fruits and vegetables, limiting those simple sugars that aren't providing some of those other nutrients, getting healthy proteins and healthy fats and adequate micronutrients, those vitamins and minerals. Also, physical activity. I always like the idea of after you consume a meal to take a walk or to exercise to burn some of that energy. Having a healthy microbiome is actually really important for that healthy response to food and having a healthy weight. But there's also plant-based compounds that can impact how your body is responding to the foods we eat. So let's talk about some of those. So the first one is a white mulberry leaf. And so it's been used for thousands of years in Asia. And it's a common food ingredient that is widely used across Asia. And not all mulberry leaves are created equal. I think that's an important point in that there's many different species, red, black, or white. In our case, we're talking about a white mulberry. Are they standardized? So are they standardized to the active ingredient that's been shown to have the clinical impact on the response to food? And we will look at some clinical studies and just making sure that they're being provided at an effective dose. So how does white mulberry extract impact the foods we eat? So basically, white mulberry leaf is standardized to an active ingredient called D&J. And basically, it has a very similar structure to simple sugars. So what happens in the body is that D&J competitively inhibits carbohydrate digesting enzymes. So in the intestine, these enzymes that can break down the carbs are basically competing with the carbs or the D&J binding to the enzyme. And when D&J binds to the enzyme, the carbs are not able to be broken down as quickly, which then enables you to have this improved post-meal response. So basically, it just slows down that response. It provides that healthier response to those higher carbohydrate foods. It allows those carbohydrates to get lower down into your intestine and interact with the microbiome and send those signals to your body that you have eaten and that you're full. So let's look at some studies on mulberry leaf extract and the impact on sugar. So this is a study, and this was a placebo-controlled crossover study. So what a crossover study means is that these subjects, they came in one time and they consumed the placebo along with 75 grams of sucrose of sugar. And then they came back, let's say a week later, and they consumed the mulberry extract along with that same amount of sugar. And then what the researchers did is they looked at the change in the physiological biomarker over this period of 2 hours or 120 minutes. And so you can see that when these subjects consume the placebo, you see a much higher peak, that red bar, and you then see it dip below baseline. So a very unhealthy response to sugar. And if you consume the mulberry, you can see that that peak is blunted and then you return to baseline quicker than you do with the placebo. So again, it's just helping indicate that healthier response to sucrose and that this has been shown to be well tolerated with no adverse events. So another study looked at 37 healthy subjects. Again, it was a crossover study. So this actually used 50 grams of maltodextrin. So the last study was sugar. This is maltodextrin, which is a starch, and they consumed it with a placebo or the mulberry leaf extract again. And again, if you looked at that 2-hour response of that physiological biomarker after the consumption, you can see that you have a much lower increase in that physiological biomarker when you consume the mulberry leaf. And so what this study demonstrates is that different carbohydrates can be blunted or impacted with mulberry leaf. Mulberry leaf is not just acting on one type of carbohydrate, it's acting on many different carbohydrate sources. And this just looked at one single dose of mulberry. So very helpful when you're consuming the mulberry leaf extract along with carbohydrates and blunting that physiological response. And so again, the study also showed that it was well tolerated with no adverse events. So white mulberry leaf has been shown to impact gene expression. So in preclinical studies, it was shown to basically impact gene expression in a high-fat diet, and it increased some gene expression and it decreased others related to some of these biological responses to food in the body. So now that we've talked about the mulberry leaf, we want to talk about another ingredient that can impact this response to the foods we eat. So guar gum is a soluble fiber, and it's also known as galactomannan, and it is sourced by guar beans, which is shown in this picture. And basically, this particular guar gum has been processed with a natural enzyme to improve solubility. And this particular ingredient has been shown to help with satiety, which is another really important aspect of how your body is responding to food. And what happens is it's basically acting like a fiber, a prebiotic, and slowly fermenting in the gut. And it's been shown to be well tolerated. So the key point about guar gum is that it's been shown to be well tolerated, and that many other fiber sources, they're basically rapidly fermented in our GI systems, and it can cause not such great side effects like gas and bloating. So guar gum is really great because it's been shown to have satiety benefits at just 2 grams. If you look at a lot of the other fiber sources, all of the fructose, corn fiber, polydextrose, starch, you're getting up into significantly greater amounts of fiber. And so it's really great to have something like guar gum or some of these other fibers that give substantially lower loads of fiber, because then you're not having those negative benefits of gas and bloating, but you're still getting those benefits for satiety. And so one study that's been done on guar gum is in healthy subjects, and basically they were given yogurt with guar gum, or they were given yogurt with nothing in it, just normal yogurt, for 2 weeks. And what they saw is that the subjects that received the guar gum, that's the black bars in the graph, they consumed significantly less calories at lunch, and they consumed significantly less calories in the snacks. It actually reduced snacking by about 20%. So just this perception of hunger was decreased, as well as it significantly improved feelings of satiety when you're consuming the yogurt along with the guar gum. And then we actually did a study on a blend of mulberry leaf extract and guar gum along with chromium. And in this study, it was an open label, so all subjects took the active ingredients that we've talked about, and they were basically instructed to maintain their diet and exercise routines that they were already doing before starting the study. They took this supplement blend for 30 days. And what we found is that overall, the average weight loss was around 0.36 kilograms, and it was well tolerated with no reported adverse events. But what was really important in this study is we actually had them fill out some self-perception questionnaires about hunger and appetite 2 hours after lunch each day. And what we saw was reductions in feelings of hunger. We saw this reduction in the desire to eat and how much food that subjects actually wanted to eat. But what was really great is this reduction in cravings. So what we saw is subjects saw a significant reduction in wanting to eat something sweet, salty, and savory. And so we actually analyzed these results at baseline, day 14, and then day 30 of the study. So at day 14, we were getting some really great results that were significant from baseline. But at day 30, it was even more significant from baseline. So just showing if you consume this every day that you're going to get greater benefits for these things of, cravings and appetite and hunger. So we were really excited about these results, and we actually presented them at Nutrition 2023 last summer. So again, just talking about kind of this physiological response is you have this great mix of these 2 ingredients. You have the mulberry leaf extract to really help support that balanced response to what you eat. And then you have the guar gum fiber to really help you with the satiety and the appetite. control. A really great combination. So now we're actually going to move to another topic, and we're going to talk about this negative cycle of stress and how it impacts weight. So basically, there's this constant cycle that when we're stressed, we often overeat. And a lot of times when we're stressed and we're overeating, we're not reaching for fruits and vegetables and kind of these lower calories, healthy foods. We're reaching for comfort foods, usually high in fat and high in sugar. And basically, when we're stress eating, we overeat, which leads to weight gain. Then we are wanting to lose weight. So we do food restrictions to reduce weight. And then that leads to stress. And it's just this vicious cycle. And, you call this stress eating. And this is very common in many individuals. And so there's many solutions that you can do to help with stress eating, just making sure that you're getting quality sleep, that you're staying physically active, doing something to help with the stress in your life, just emotion regulation. And that looks different for anybody. Maybe that's deep breathing for you. Maybe it's taking a walk. Maybe it's meditation or yoga. It's also important not to be distracted when you're eating, to really do mindful eating to help with stress eating. Don't eat, in front of a TV. And then there's also dietary ingredients that can help with snacking and stress. And so one ingredient that can help with stress and snacking is saffron. And so this is a picture of saffron in the flower, and the stigmas, so those red things in the center, that is where the saffron comes from. So they're very rich in safranol, crocin, and picrocin. And basically these ingredients, saffron extract, has been studied for well-being, for mood, for weight, hunger, and snacking. And we'll talk about some of those studies. But the mechanism most likely for saffron is that it's modulating these neurotransmitters in our brain, like serotonin and dopamine, to help relax us and not feel as anxious. It helps with inflammatory balance, and it is also an antioxidant to help with oxidative stress. So in this study, it was an 8-week study in overweight women that did have a tendency to snack. And they basically took the saffron extract every day and didn't change anything else. And what they saw was a significant reduction from baseline to 8-week or compared to placebo in the group that were taking the saffron. So they saw a significant drop in that number of snacking events. And around 70% in the saffron group did indicate that they felt less hungry before their meals, which resulted in less snacking. And they also saw a small amount, but a significant amount of weight loss of around 1 kilogram over the 8 weeks. Again, their calorie intake was not modified during the study. They were just told to keep doing what they were doing and take the saffron extract, which resulted in a reduced eating, snacking, and resulted in weight loss. So saffron extract has also been shown to impact gene expression related to mental wellness, and this includes things like BDNF. So BDNF stands for brain-derived neurotrophic factor, and BDNF is very important for helping with neuroplasticity and just helping brain overall function optimally. So I know that was a lot, and we have covered those 5 areas. So first, we talked about protein and the importance of meal replacements. We then talked about that extra support at the beginning of your weight wellness journey. We then talked about muscle and resting metabolic rate, the healthy response to food, and then we just finished up with talking about stress and snacking and food. So now what we wanted to do was really combine these 5 key areas along with a healthy eating plan and physical activity to really understand, if we take a holistic approach of looking at some of these different ingredients along with this eating plan and physical activity, what results do we get? So we did complete an open label study in overweight and obese men and women. The study was completed in Thailand. And so what this program included was a healthy eating plan. We did have the individuals do physical activity at least 3 days a week. They exercised for 30 minutes and they consumed 4 different supplements. And they were ingredients that target those 3 key areas that we've been talking about. And it is including these ingredients that we talked about. So it contained a supplement for that beginning motivation, a supplement for the healthy response to food, another supplement to really help maintain muscle and improve metabolic rate, and then a supplement that targeted stress and mood. And then additionally, these subjects took 1 meal replacement shake daily. So they replaced one of their meals with this meal replacement. And what we saw was a significantly greater weight loss over the course of 90 days or 12 weeks compared to baseline. And we started seeing that change, and it was significant at day 14. And then it kept increasing at day 30, day 16, and day 90. We also looked at body circumference measurements, and we saw a significant reduction compared to baseline in the waist circumference, the thigh circumference, the upper arm circumference, and the ankle circumference. And we did look at body composition, and we found that basically lean muscle was maintained after 12 weeks, which we've talked about that quite a bit. And that's such an important thing, that you want to maintain that muscle to help increase your metabolic rate. So in this study, we also had them complete a number of questionnaires. And so just some statistics that we got from the measurements and along with these questionnaires is we saw that 98% of subjects did see weight loss after 12 weeks, which is really impressive. 97% of subjects noticed that they had a change in their body silhouette at the end of the study. 86% of subjects thought that this was a better weight management system than others. They tried many times. People have tried many different weight management systems, and it's really great to see that people liked this particular system better. We had 92% of subjects that had decreased waist circumference. We had 95% of subjects that were satisfied with the program. They basically rated it quite high on a 10-point scale. And 92% of subjects thought their clothes fit better. So some really great statistics just talking about the overall program that the subjects in the study completed. And then we also had these subjects complete a questionnaire, a self-perception response on appetite and hunger throughout the study. And what we saw from baseline to the end of study is that the total number of subjects reported decreased feelings of hunger, desire to eat. They also saw a reduction in wanting to eat something sweet. And 88% of subjects said they did not want to eat again. So they basically just did not want to consume as much food, which again, this is pretty impressive because if you remember, these subjects were losing weight, they were improving their body circumference. And they were just basically saying, hey, I'm not as hungry as I was at baseline before starting this overall program. And then if you look at the statistics on the right with the arrows pointing down, this is actually looking at, how strong, what was the strength of their hunger and desire to eat. So subjects in this study saw a 51% reduction in the decrease in their feelings of hunger and desire to eat. They saw a 55% reduction in wanting to eat something sweet and a 51% reduction in wanting to eat something savory. So really great results that we saw from individuals doing this hunger and appetite questionnaire. So we also collected blood samples from a subset of subjects. So we actually took blood at baseline and then at the end of study. So after 90 days or 12 weeks in 20 individuals, and then we compared their gene expression from baseline and end of study. So I know this graph has a lot going on, but basically you're seeing at the top, the green bars correlate to columns of individuals at baseline, whereas orange is 12 weeks. And then each of the rows are different genes, and each of these genes was significantly changed or impacted with the treatment when you look from baseline to end of study. And what we saw with this gene expression clustering heat map is that you're basically seeing a clustering of individuals at baseline, and their gene expression is changing quite dramatically after 12 weeks on the program. And so this particular heat map is just looking at overall gene expression changes, but we've dug into the data and looked at different genes that are changing either on this graph or in further analysis. And we're finding that there's some genes that are impacting key areas of weight management that we're interested in, and they're changing from baseline to end of study. And they're related to things like metabolism, and hunger and appetite. And again, we're seeing this overall global shift with gene expression. So we were really excited about this data in this clinical study. And we will end with looking at some images of the clinical study. So again, this is subjects looking at baseline after doing the program for 14 days, 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days. And you can see a significant amount of weight loss was around 7.3 kilograms, and the waist circumference was reduced by about 4.5 centimeters. Another subject in the study lost around 6.1 kilograms from baseline to end of study, and they saw a reduction in the waist. And that is all I have. I apologize that was a lot of information very quick, but again, I hope you learned something. And like Fiona said, ask any questions you have in the chat, and we are happy to answer those.